Hey Taurus, how y'all doing? Welcome. We're going to be taking a look at your Imbolc season of February through March up until the spring equinox. So, a little bit about your meditation. It was short but sweet. I saw an image of a snake, and it was it kind of looked like the caduceus that is the symbol for healing, with the two, that are entwining each other around the medical staff. But it was just one in the image. But I did feel that healing image from it. And it was wrapped around what looked like a pointed crystal quartz. And then I saw a figure step forward that felt like a Merlin sort of archetype energy, if you will, come and place his hand on the crystal, and I saw it just light up, and it felt like there was a charge happening, like a cell phone that's charging, kind of glowing to show that it's charging. And then I was taken out of that once it felt like the charge was full, and I was taken to a cow, in a Springfield cow, which is Empress energy, by the way. And it just went. I'm gonna do my best impression of a cow right now, but it just went. Oh, like it was almost about to give birth. Like it felt like a pre-birthing pain. Fascinating. The Empress is number 3. She is, the month of March. So it's interesting that we're looking at this time period going into that place of, birth and renewal. There is this strong sense because you guys are the bulls, right? And then we're seeing the feminine form of the cow here. It just feel like with the Empress energy and this creative energy, the number 3, the number of creation, and with the snake, transition, healing, change, renew, all of this, right? A lot of themes. It does feel like there is this aspect for you during this time of reconfiguration. And it feels personal. It feels like a personal reconfiguration that is curated by you, meaning one Taurus's reconfiguration in bulk season will be different from their neighbor Taurus's reconfiguration in bulk season. Really curated for you. I feel like this is really beautifully reflected in your cards. So you have the beaver here, which is stunning and beautiful. That's 8 of Pentacles energy / King of Cups energy. So it speaks of, beaver medicine in particular is very much about a personality type that enjoys playing only when they know that they've put in all of the hard work, right, that they're capable of. Then they can play. They can work hard. They can play hard, and opposite as well. They work harder knowing that play is going to be the reward. So there is that beautiful call to balance, along with that King of Cups energy about emotional balance, emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, and understanding what and whom to give your emotional energy to. Because I am feeling a sense of like emotional displacement. There's an aspect of, are your energies going towards things emotional or mental or physical in any way, towards things that don't give you as much as you give them? Right? There is a call to kind of look at that stuff and go, can we manage our energy a little bit differently so that you can work smarter and not harder? And again, this could be emotional, work, relationships, day to day, but I really do feel like a lot of this comes down to your choices. Now, what's really interesting here is you have the eight of Pentacles here with the beaver. And then for your Imbolc oracle, you have Winter Woodlands, number 44, which is what? 8. So 8 is the magic number for you, which feels really, really positive. That's the number of financial gain, of upward movement and ascension, of a lot of good luck and fortune. So this says, take time to honor what you feel. Self-compassion is the healing balm you desire. This card with this full moon here, which is really beautiful, that is reflected in your advice, or actually your outcome here of the moon. You got 2 for your outcome because you're overachievers. You have the Hierophant, which is yourself, which is beautiful with the moon. So this aspect of the moon, I feel like it's calling to, your intuition, but also when we think about the moon and being full and birth, you know what I mean? With that cow, that Empress about to give birth, I do feel like there are some things that want to gestate within you, whatever that means to you. And I do feel like the keyword here is transform, right? It could even be an aspect of facing your shadows to transform. It's interesting. Come on, go back in there. Here you go. So in your place of challenges, you have Queen of Wands. Now, this is really interesting because Queen of Wands is about confidence. It's about leadership, but it's also about your own creative potential, right? I do feel like there's something. I feel like I'm channeling a lot of creative people like right now. And your creativity, it's not just about being an artist quote or being a business person where you create, a new product or a new idea or whatever it is. But it's about the fact that we're all creators, and it's about how do you not just create, but curate your own life. How do you curate your own life? Are you your own auteur of your own reality, or are you being directed by other people, other situations, others' expectations, your own expectations? I feel like you're being called to, I'm getting this really interesting image. A lot of this change and transformation that wants to happen for you. I feel like I'm being shown where you have been the like supporting actor in your own play, and you're being called to really take a look at how that might be true for you in whatever way, whether it's you're willing to take second best at work or in your personal relationships, or feels like it's all about the other person or all about the needs of this or whatever. And even if it's your job that's taking a lot of your time away from what you really love to do, so it's that you're what you really love to do is the supporting actor, right? It's a wider context, but I feel like you're being called to go, hey, this is your own play, so I think you should take the leading role. There's something in that for you, and it's coming up in your place of challenges, And I'm also really drawn to this lioness's ribs here as well. I feel like there's a part of you that's quite food deprived, in the sense of, because the sunflower is about Leo energy, is about being seen, being recognized, being in the spotlight. So I do feel like there's something coming up for you around that. No, speaking of rib cages, we have death here. It's a little like intense, but it's how we do. This is in your place of victory, which I really love actually, because this is about love actually. This is about big transformation and putting an end to things so that you can welcome a new cycle, Scorpio energy. So the fact that this is in your place of victory, and I saw that snake in your meditation, and then also your advice being the tower, which is more Scorpio energy. I got to tell you something. When this comes up as advice, it's always very clear to me. I know exactly what it means, and I love it when advice is quite clear. And in this case, it really means to allow for big change. Allow for big changes within yourself that are going to lead to big changes in your external environment. Now, this could be changes with you that are already happening, and you're sitting here going, yeah, there's some changes that want to be made. And I'm not sure how to go about it, or I'm not sure the timing of it, or something about it that feels a bit unknown. But I do feel like for you that it's about allowing for it. Do you remember I said that I saw Merlin and it was like the snake wrapped around like a big quartz pointed crystal, and then he touched it and it was charging? It looked a lot like this, but it was a quartz crystal with a snake on it. And then it was like charging, and then you have the lightning charge here. Does this allow for the big change? Let's talk about the tower for a moment. I call the tower the great rearranger, because this is when the universe is stepping in to realign you. It's when we get off our path a bit. Happens to everybody a lot of the time, all the time, actually. It's a process of righting ourselves, right? Because that's part of what we're learning here, right? The school of life. But this is about being redirected by the universe so that you are back on your highest and best path. And also as it shifts and changes as the product of your choices, right? Because every choice that we make has a ripple effect, right? Some big, some small, some medium sized. But ultimately, I do feel like you are being rerouted or being called to a reroute. And I feel like for some of you, it could be quite subtle. I do. But subtle that yields, not so subtle results. And others of you could be quite significant in terms of your personal relationships or even your job. I see someone undergoing like a physical transformation as well. It feels like maybe, I feel like there's some of you that, how we feel on the inside, is very often reflected in how we look on the outside. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes people look like they really have it, quote, I'm using air quotes here, together. But on the inside, they're a big old mess. But really, you can tell. Even if it's very subtle, you can see it in the eyes. You can see it when someone's going through a change, that their physical appearance might shift a bit, whether they're dressing differently or they're doing their hair differently. We change our hair when we go through a breakup, for example. A lot of us, I know I'm guilty of that. not guilty, it's not a bad thing, but it's sort of the inherent nature of us as humans is we seek to, respond to change in a myriad of ways. And I feel like there's a group of you that I'm channeling, that this is speaking of a physical transformation that feels like it's happening in real time, that is happening in tandem with whatever this internal shift is as well. I do feel like I'm looking at the cow with the birth and all of this going like, yeah, like I'm feeling some labor pains coming up, but in a really positive way, right? As positive as labor pains can be. Here's your outcome here of the Hierophant, which is you coming up as your own outcome, which is brilliant with the moon. The moon is very much about the unknown, but it's about your psychic ability. It's about your intuitive knowing. And it's also about being willing to see what is hidden within us all. This is about the shadow, right? I do feel like we are looking at some shadow work here for a good group of y'all, but just let me wrap about the shadow just briefly. Shadow is a concept that was coined by Carl Jung, right? Also who coined the father of the term synchronicity, right? Pretty sure he was on our team there, Carl Jung, but anyway. So the shadow speaks of the parts of ourselves that we've relegated to our bag of shadows, so in our subconscious, the parts of ourselves that, we tossed out. This is not just the parts of ourselves that, got us rejected or didn't help with our survival, so they got relegated to the bag. Also, the most positive aspects of ourselves as well. Whatever did not help us assimilate into our society growing up, or what was rejected or not accepted by the adults who were in positions of authority or our peers or our culture, all got put in the shadow bag. And I feel like there are parts of this that can be your intuition. I just got shivers. A lot of us in our formative years, because we're quite psychic when we're young, right? If we get the message, whether it's direct or indirect, that our intuition and our psychic knowing and our feelings around things are not acceptable, are going to lead to rejection or scorn or ridicule or whatever it is, that's going to go in the shadow bag, because our number one priority when we're growing up is to be safe and to go along to get along, to assimilate, to fit in. That's why as adolescents we care so much about fitting in, because we understand that as a part of the pack of the human race, it really is about survival, especially in those formative years where there are adults that are in charge of our food, the roof over our head, our love, our well-being, right? Our emotional sustenance. I do feel like this is coming up for you in a particular way because you're being asked to reach into your bag of shadows and retrieve something very particular related to your soul purpose and why you're here. Now, for some of you, this could be your intuition. For some of you, this could be your willingness to be seen and step into the light and be in center stage and be the star in your own show. For others, this could be a creative ability that you had when you were quite young and you tossed it in the bag and haven't returned to it in a while. This could be any number of things. We put all sorts of stuff in our bag of shadows. I feel like you're being called to retrieve it. Something to think about. Something to think about, my beautiful bulls. I do feel, on a last note with this Hierophant, I do feel like this is saying that the outcome is that you're retrieving into this moon, this bag of shadows, the unknown, and really retrieving the best parts of yourself. And see how the forehead here on this stag, I love this deck so much, is illuminated here with this ball of light. And this also speaks of tradition and uniformity and the way of going about things. That could be a special note for someone watching this as well. Sometimes we put our intuition and our psychic abilities in our shadow bag because we grew up in very religious surroundings that, told us that was wrong or evil, or it was going to not lead to us being accepted so much. So there could be something as well, especially those of us who, grew up in particular parts of the world, particular parts of the States, I'm saying. So with that being said, I so hope that this helps and resonates, going back to this beaver energy here as well. I do feel like there is this energy of wanting to bring into balance the part of you that is here to live out your particular soul purpose, and the other part of you that is here to just be your best, most beautiful self, out loud and proud, and in the full sun. There is something about that for you, and I really love it. So let me know in the comments how this is landing with you. I'm so excited to be back with you guys. I just released the 2024 year ahead video, so check that out if you haven't already. And yeah, let me know in the comments. How you doing? How are you getting by? How are you feeling about 2024? Do you have any affirmations for this year? I always come up with one for myself. My affirmation for this year is I am lucky. And I'm carrying over the one from last year, which is everything works out for me. So made a bit of a hybrid this year with I am lucky, everything works out for me. So if you have any of those, I definitely recommend doing that. It can be incredibly helpful and act as a nice guidepost throughout your year. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, just thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And with that being said, just most of all, and as always, and especially with this reading, Taurus, thank you for being you. And be well. Until next time.